course, so all the readings that we have in Mass, of course, we get like a little snippet, but they all have a context, something that becomes before it, after it, or just sort of what's going on in the world of the author. And so for our second reading from this passage, this snippet we get from 2 Corinthians, where he's talking about working and to eat and not being disorderly and all those kind of things. So the people of Thessalonica, they had gotten all caught up in this idea that Jesus' return was imminent. Like it was like literally going to happen every day, even though it had already been like 20, 25 years. Of course, we know we're still waiting, but they were like, it's happening like any moment now. So some of them thought it'd be a good idea, just like, well, if he's coming back, like, I don't know, today, tomorrow, I'm just going to quit my job. Like, why go to work, you know? And so a lot of people were doing that, but then, of course, they were still like trying to mooch dinner off of people because they weren't working. And then because they weren't working, they had all this free time to like snoop around in other people's business and all these kind of things. And so St. Paul is trying to like put a correction on all that, like just do your thing and just like keep your nose like clean and all that, and you'll be fine. So maybe we think, well, that's, I don't know, maybe that seems a little extra, that they thought Jesus was coming back, and so we're just going to like quit our jobs and just be a nuisance to everybody else who's working. But you know, today, for example, with this AI revolution, some people who get caught up in all that in a particular way, maybe especially like in Silicon Valley, you know, the Bay Area, where all the big tech companies are. Like there's literally people who are worried about this AI apocalypse, which is not even using the word apocalypse correctly. But they think, well, the AI is just going to ruin the world in like 2 years, like tops. So I'm just going to quit my job. And I'm just going to sort of live for myself, do what I want, party it up. There's people who have stopped saving for retirement or are spending their savings down because, like, well, why not, you know? Even there's people who are buying and then also selling, like, these bio shelters so they can survive, you know, when the world ends. Because of AI, or like buying like plots of land like off the grid, you know, where they can survive for a while. Others are using this opportunity to say, well, the whole thing's going to collapse, and so I might as well try to make as much money as I can now and bank it. There's others who, there's this smart to hot lifestyle change, where it's like, well, AI is going to do all the thinking for me, so I might as well just spend my time and effort on looking good and being cool. And having friends and all this kind of thing. If you're like me, you might look at that and be like, I don't know, it seems like a bit extra as a response to this potential thing that may or may not ever even happen. So we can see that there's like this connection to what people think they should do when it seems like the world is just going to like end. So I think we can like take all that and look at the gospel. So Jesus in this gospel passage, he's actually predicting something very specific. The actual destruction of the temple there in Jerusalem, which would happen in the year 70. That's like a historical thing. The Romans just got sort of sick of it all, and they just kind of ransacked Jerusalem and destroyed the temple, as Jesus described, not a stone upon another stone. If you remember, for the people of Israel, back in the biblical times, Jerusalem and the temple, that was the center of their world. That was like the center of their whole universe. And so for the temple to be destroyed literally was like it was their world coming to an end in a lot of ways. And of course, we can apply this to ourselves as well. Maybe there's things in our own life or just in humanity in general, which things like our world is just kind of falling apart. And there's that invitation then to, okay, how do we respond to that then? And Jesus today invites us not to panic, not to be afraid, but to persevere. As he says, not a hair on your head will be destroyed. Interestingly, even after he just said they will put some of you to death, he also says, but not a hair on your head will be destroyed. Because we know that there's more to this whole thing than the life that we're living now. That we're actually marked out for a new world to come. And all this is unveiled through the resurrection of Jesus. That's what apocalypse means, or revelation. Apocalypse from the Greek, revelation from the Latin. They both mean to remove the veil. And what's unveiled is this whole new world that Christ came to enter in through his rising from the dead. As people who belong to Christ, we also have that hope. Hope not being some Pollyannic optimism, but a certainty that this is our future. Especially in this Jubilee year that we have in the church, we're reminded that we're on a journey of hope. Pope Benedict XVI famously wrote, "The one who has hope lives differently. The one who hopes has been granted the gift of a new life. This new life that we have in Christ that will last for all eternity." And so for us Christians, we walk in a hope that goes just well beyond whatever the world can throw at us. So we're called to just continue to keep our focus on Christ above all, to let the fire of God's love continue to help us to grow in holiness on our own Christian journey, to not get caught up in the what-ifs of what might happen with the world. C.S. Lewis, who was a famous Christian writer in the 20th century, is from England, both fiction and nonfiction. So in 1948, he wrote this article, an essay called On Living in an Atomic Age, of course, right after World War II, and all that kind of things. He said, "If we're going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let that bomb come when it finds us doing sensible and human things, praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis," I guess today would say pickleball, "chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They may break our bodies, a microbe can do that, but they need not dominate our minds." It's easy to look at passages like we have here, especially at the end of the year, when it deliberately focuses on the end of things and just get caught up in the wrong things and lose focus. Maybe to panic, to worry, to be afraid. But St. Paul says elsewhere, perfect love casts out all fear. And so we come to be reaffirmed in the great love that God has for us and our love for God and others in return. And all of this comes together whenever we come here to Mass to celebrate the Paschal mystery, the saving death and resurrection of Jesus, who offers us Holy Communion in his very life. So as we encounter Christ here in the Mass today, let's indeed remember that we are in our life on a pilgrimage of hope to our heavenly home, where not a hair on our head will be destroyed, because we belong unto the Lord of life.